Thank you very much for everybody for jumping on. So my name is Dan Cohen, the Charleston Soccer Club Director of Operations. On the call this evening, we also have some of our parent liaisons. So we have represented from the Boys MLS Next program, Andrea Dahlman, Miranda McCune, Angela Rhodes, and Kimberly Cole. From our girls DPL program, we also have Andrea and Miranda. And from our boys junior academy in the South program, we have Pam Phelan as well. So wide range of teams on, and hopefully that gives everybody good insight. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look through the current or the planned changes for the new seasonal year as US Youth Soccer, US Club Soccer, USSSA, have all made the shift to go to what they call grade year, which ultimately means August 1 of any seasonal year. As you'll be able to see now, this is the age group formation matrix, and this first column is the first season. For us as a club, that means that our youngest players in the U8 program are going to be from August the 1st, 2018 through to July 31st of 2019. They go through to the oldest age group of U18, which is August the 1st, 2008 to July 31st of 2009. You can see the breakdowns within each age group, and ultimately what this is meant to do is put everybody in positions to be within the same soccer program as the school grade friends that they have. Over the last number of years, since US soccer made the shift to birth year, grade were being split up and kids were being playing in different teams than their school friends. Within this age group formation matrix, you will also see what it looks like over the next few years, and parents can see where their children will fall within each of the next 7 seasons, right down to the youngest right now of July 31st, 2022, as they transition into club soccer over the next few years. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the floor to questions from our parent liaison representatives. And Derek Broadley, our club technical director, is going to answer those questions and hopefully be able to answer the questions that many of the parents within our organization have. And if anyone has any further questions after watching this video, please feel free to reach out to us at questions@chssoccerclub.com and we will get you answered as quickly as we can.
Dan, can I just say something before we move on and take questions? This change going from grade year to birth year was done about 4 years ago. And what US Soccer didn't do at the time was really have an understanding of why they were making this move. The birth year of January the 1st is only really applied anywhere in the world to international football. And by that, I mean kids that play international soccer. So if you play for the American national team, the British, the English national team, the Scottish national team, it was all done based on birth year. Everywhere else in the world, all other soccer has always been played in the school years, so that obviously kids could play with their friends and were basically judged and put into levels based on their grade level, their school level, rather than their biological age. So the move back is definitely a step in the right direction. But what I want to make clear is to everyone is that in however way you shape this, there's always going to be a kid who's the youngest and a kid who's the oldest. Doesn't matter what system you use. And what I'll hopefully be bringing out once we get some questions is if there is always an advantage to being the oldest, and there also is a disadvantage at being the youngest. And if you have the ability and the option to be the oldest kid in the group to give you more time to develop, coming as a developer of young soccer players, I think that opportunity should always be taken as it would be in any other form of education. But that's just a little point of reference.
Thank you. All right, we'll open it up. Who would like to be our first question asker? Don't all volunteer at once.
I will be.
There we go.
What are you doing for the children that fall, basically the kids that are born in August? So the kids that will fall, I don't really know how to phrase that question, but I'll use Chris on the 11s, for example. He is technically a year older, but he is not a year older, but in a school year, he's a year older because his birthday is before the September 1st cutoff for South Carolina. But for this new soccer rule, he's after the July 31st cutoff. So he's going to be a kid that moves down, but is still going to be outside of his age group because of how that birth year falls. Will kids like that have birthdays in August be able to stay with their school age friends, even though technically they'll be playing up for the soccer situation?
Okay, the best way whenever there's a change, and we did this when, as I said, when US Soccer did it previously, the best gauge is always to have the children try out in their appropriate age band. So for this coming year, what we would suggest is that every kid tries out in their appropriate age group, so based on their grade, right? And then on individual cases, we can look at everyone. We don't want to come out and say everyone who's currently playing up is going to play up and everyone who's currently playing down is going to play down. So like we do every single year, we ask children to try out at their appropriate age based on what we advertise for tryouts. And then we'll look at every individual child as those kids try out. And let me tell you why. So everyone looks at it from their own age band. But if you look, every single age band that we operate from under 18 all the way down to under 6, because of the change, is going to have kids moving up and down based on what you just said. So the easiest way to do it is to say, so that August birthday, try out in the age group that you are able to try out with based on your grade, and then we will decide upon tryout where that will be. So if you look at the current age group, just to make it clearer, if you are currently playing at under 14 football, and next year you can remain at under 14 football based on the change of the dates, then that's where we would ask you to try out. If you are actually, because of that date, I can try it under 15, we would ask you to try it under 15. And then once we've got everyone in place, we will be able to place you accordingly. And the great thing is about CSE is we do reports. We know Dan's already working on it now. Dan's already working on a list that will tell us the kids that will move up to their grade or that will be held back to their grade. We're already aware of all who those players are. And then once we start to understand the numbers moving up and down, we will have a much better opportunity to tell individual parents prior to tryout where we think they will land. Does that make sense? Yes, no.
Yeah, it does. Sorry.
Okay, no. So I don't want to use a name, but let's say we've currently got a player playing in our under 14 team who, based on the birth year change, could remain at that age group. He's going to stay with his grade year. We would ask him to try out in that grade year. But if he was, say, the best kid on the team right now, and we feel that he, regardless of the birth change, that we feel that he should still stay with his current group, we will have that conversation with that parent ahead of tryouts. If we felt, do you know what, we think your son right now or your daughter, who's also in that same age, would benefit from having another year playing at that same age group, we will have that conversation with you ahead of time. Because there's going to be a lot of movement. There's going to be a lot of movement from top team to second team, and there's going to be a lot of movement from top team to other top team. So the best way to do it is always to put everyone at their base mark where they're supposed to be and then move them accordingly from there. So if you look at Dan, can you zoom in on your sheet?
So piggybacking.
Go on. Who's piggybacking?
I was going to piggyback on that, but then I didn't want to interrupt what you were about to say.
No, go on. Go
Okay,
on.
I was
Piggyback.
just wondering, so I have two children, one in junior academy, one in MLS Next, that will fall in that sort of limbo stage. So are you saying that as directors, you will have those conversations with individual parents whose kids need to be kind of before trial, individual coaches of that player have conversations with that parent and say, for tryouts, for example, Chase is a 16, plays with the 15s. Should he try out with the 16s first and then be looked at for staying with his current 15s team?
Yeah.
Wondering, is the directors going and finding all of the parents that have kids in that area, or are individual coaches talking to those parents?
No, it will be the directors, right? It will be me on the boys' side and Meg on the girls' side, right? We will have that list. He's on the current kids that are in the club. We will know exactly who that is. We will know. We'll have a list. I think if we haven't already got that list, we've got that list now. We certainly know the numbers. We just haven't identified individuals. But as directors, we will reach out to those people individually prior to tryout and have that conversation with them. What we will tell I would say the majority of them is try out with your age that you are set to join, and then based on what comes out. Because again, what you have to understand as parents and parent liaisons is, if let's say other clubs don't adopt our strategy, let's say other clubs go, you know what, you've got to go back to the age group that know that those kids might try out at another club. And the thing is about tryouts is, and you all know my feelings on tryouts, but tryouts, anyone could come out. So the best way, day one, is to have everyone in their own age group and then deal with the extremes on an individual basis. But what we want to do to preempt that is to give you an idea of where we think your opportunities lies as individual with your individual children. So as you're on it, Angela, let's take Ezra. We would like Ezra to try out his own age group, but if we truly believe that he's better staying playing with the current group of players based on his ability level, we will make that known to you in that conversation ahead of time.
Yeah, no, then that's great. So for communicating to parents too, I mean, I know I fall into that category myself, but also to know that that conversation is going to happen with you guys as opposed to looking for the coach to make that initiation. So
I think it only really applies to the top level teams, to be honest with you, because what normally happens at tryouts is that once the top level teams come in, everyone seems to fall into place behind that. For a club like ours, you know, we don't believe in moving a player up based on the fact that you could be the best kid on the Navy team, but you're still not equipped to go and play on the MLS Next team or the girls DPL team. So that's what has to be done on an individual basis. So all those current players that are currently in a position where they could be misplaced based on where they currently are, Meg and I will have those conversations ahead of time. Now, whether we'll do it in an individual call or whether we'll have a meeting and invite you all in, but ultimately the decision will be based individually on your individual kid. It's not because everyone's in that age group, everyone's going to move up, or everyone in that age is going to move down. Every time, every single player in our club is an individual. There might be a kid who currently plays on our yellow team that has progressed so well that they go on to our MLS Next or our DPL team. So every year, kids develop at different age and ranges. There may be a kid that comes in from another club that was good enough for their top team and now is good enough for our top team. So they will replace a current person who plays in that top team. That's just the nature of tryouts. But the idea is, in order for us to get a baseline, the sort of standard answer right now is we would like everyone to be based and assessed on the current criteria, which is your current grade year based on that birth year, and we will determine our teams from that base mark. Anyone else? Am I muted, Dan, or is everyone else on?
No, you're good. Any more for any more?
Any other questions?
Yeah, how will the coaches, so one of our teams, well, yeah, my oldest team, there's going to be a divide, like
Yeah.
almost half and a half, or five and eight. Um, how does it work with the coach? Which team would the coach stay with?
Again, what we do every year, it's a great question, Pam. Every year we look at how well we have the Satori questionnaire that we put out, and we review our coaches yearly. And whenever there's a change, there's going to be coaches change. We like most of our coaches to try and do a 2-year cycle with each group that they work with. So some coaches are already, this is year 3 since Mike and I have taken over. So there is some coaches that are 1 year into that, and there's some that are 2. But again, the question is going to be, who's going to be the coach of the teams? Once we put out the slates, like we will be putting out our coaches slate ahead of time. So let's say there's a coach on a current team now that he's only been there 1 year. Maybe we'll ask him which half would you like to stay with for the next year? And some of that will be down to, are they 7v7? Are they 9v9? Are they transitioning to 11v11? Are they going from 9v9 to MLS Next? Are they going from 9v9 to Navy? And then obviously the other thing into that is license level. So if you're a coach that wants to start coaching at the 11v11 age group, you must have the license. So there's lots of factors in, but every parent will know who the coach is ahead of time that's going to be taking that age group based on the change ahead of time. What I always say to everyone in every time I'm asked that question, parents have got to be very careful. Always pick the school, not the teacher. You only most of the time you only have a teacher for 1 or 2 years, and it works both ways. Some people love the teacher, but they don't get the teacher they want in 2 years' time. Some people may have issues with the teacher. You're not going to be stuck with that teacher for the whole time. So, most kids have 3 or 4 coaches at least within a club program. We really encourage our coaches to follow the methodology, follow a curriculum. We have someone on this call now that's helping us develop the cultural alignment of all our coaches. So we work very hard on that. We don't get it perfectly right, and we don't want just clones, but we do pride ourselves on trying to put the best coaches at the appropriate level and then making them specialists. So I can't answer that question right now, but once we get to the point where we announce our tryouts, our coaching slate will be out there. And, I wish to say that we have a 1-to-1 with most coaches every year based on 1, where they want to be, and 2, where we think they should be. We don't want, we, like everything, we always have some coaches that it's not a fit for one team or the other, and vice versa. So, we don't make change for change's sake, but, we want to make sure that every year, and where there's players being displaced this year, there's going to be coaches that are displaced. And what we want to do is put the best coaches with the best age groups.
I have another question for you.
Go on.
This applies mostly to the youngest age group in the Select Academy right now. And I don't know if this applies to DPL or not, but to specifically MLS Next, what is your plan for the kids in specifically the 2013 age group right now that will fall into their graduation year next year and are, I don't want to say strides ahead, but as you know, there is a significant learning curve that first year in 11v11. And some of that youngest age group has already gone through that learning curve. And next year they will have to repeat that learning curve with another group. What is your plan to help the ones that have already gone through that struggle year and are more technically sound and ready for that world, to keep them from struggling with the kids that are new to that environment?
Right, right. So again, another great question. And the reality is that we're not the only club that's going to have that group of kids. So when the teams they play are going to be in the same boat. I mean, this is what everyone looks at it from their own team perspective, but all clubs are going to be going through this same process. I think some clubs may say, we're sticking with our teams regardless. And over time, it will make it a disadvantage because half their kids could be potentially younger or older, or they've already picked the teams based on the current system anyway. But the way I would look at it, and as I said, I always look at it from a development standpoint, if you've had children that have already gone through that process, they should be taking on more of a leadership role. They should be more acclimatized to that level, and they should be a big support. And one of the things I say, having done this for 30 years, is sometimes you have really, really good years where you're on top of your game, and then other times you have times when you're struggling. And I think that when you're at the top of your game, part of your responsibility in a team sport is to drag everyone else up with you. So those kids that have already, so if you're talking about kids that have played under 13 football this year, that are going to play under 13 football again next year, they should be at the top of their game. They should be showing they've got leadership qualities. They should be bringing the other group round, because it's only this first year that's going to be a real issue. Next year, after next year, everyone then's going to be playing consistently. When we shifted from grade year to birth year, it was only the first year it was a real issue. The second year, everyone sort of caught up and the level was the same. But what I would say to you is, kids, anytime you have an opportunity to repeat a year, you can do it, but you've got to make sure that your individual levels are higher than what they were. And maybe this year, where you might have been one of the ones that were struggling, next year you should be the ones that are kicking on. And as you personally know, I actually like to train kids like the 12s with the 13s with the 14s, for that exact reason. One year you learn off the older kids, and next year the younger kids learn off of you. So I think it is a cycle. Yep. And as long as it's introduced that way and it's consistent that way, I think it's a great idea. And in Europe, believe it or not, most academies don't pick a whole cohort, a whole team of the same year. They normally go 50-50. So in most English academies, the under 14 team is normally made up of the sort of late developer 14s and the real early thrivers under 13s. So I think that is something that's pretty standard in European recruitment. And as I said, it doesn't matter how you ever do soccer in a yearly cycle, someone's the youngest, someone's the oldest. So historically, kids that were born in a birth year between January and June were normally the strongest. And, most clubs always try to do 50% of their team from January to June and 50% of their team from July to December, so that they encompass the late developers. So if you're a developer, you're already aware of that. And then there's a thing coming out right now, which I won't bore you with, called bio-banding, where they try and place kids based on their biological demographics rather than their age. And Scotland's just done a great tryout thing there, where they brought in club players from all over the country and bio-banded them. And there's an article, maybe I'll send it to the club, and it was really interesting. So you basically played against kids based on your biological makeup rather than your academic, and it was a fantastic experiment.
For
Does that
the
answer you?
for the parents of younger players, my son, who is a senior now, was, he was the school age year, which is 0708, and then went to birth year. So he actually got caught up in that and had 2 years. But that helped him step out as a leader and stuff like that. So, it like Derek said, that first year is where the hiccups, and then everybody will be, on the same page.
The leadership one, I think, is a huge one for us as a club. I think even modern children, we ain't got that many leaders right now. And, Keith's a great example of that. Keith, in education terms, got held back a year, but he grew immensely from a team leader. Now he's the captain of the team. He's seen as the senior kid. So I think, my advice to a lot of parents is if you've got an opportunity to take advantage of this, take advantage of it. I come from Europe where people, if they can keep their kid in school an extra year to get better qualifications, they do that. And if you can do that from a soccer perspective, I would do it. One thing I'll say, and I'll tell this story because I told Dan I would, and I'll just say it quickly. When I was at Crystal Palace, I went over to the under-17 European Championships and I watched Cristiano Ronaldo as a 17-year-old. And I'll tell you now, he was a standout player. He was the oldest kid and under 17 in the tournament. Everyone was looking at him. I went back to the same country to watch the under 19 event 2 months later, and no one even knew who Ronaldo was because he was playing with kids 2 years older. So there is a great advantage playing in your own age group, being the big fish in the little pond, rather than always being the big fish in the big pond that's got to look like a big fish in a big pond. So if you can give them that chance to thrive, and it's really good for their self-belief, their self-motivation to be the big player. It's nice to be the best player and really thrive for a year rather than always feel that you've got to be challenged. Every now and again, it's nice to be challenged, but you know what? Be the best in your own age group. And here in America, where you're into a recruitment year where college coaches want to see the best kid. They don't want to hear excuses. Well, he's the best kid, but he's playing up, or he's a really good player, but he's playing with older kids. Let them be the big fish in the big pond and see how good they really are. And those of you that on this call that do the regional soccer, we've all been to places where we see a kid who's like, in his own age group or their own age group or her own age group, and they're thriving and they're in their own age group. They don't always have to be challenged. Every now and again, it's nice to be challenged, but not all the time. Let them thrive. Let them be the best kid. Let everyone know who they are so they can be that person.
I'll piggyback off
Anything
that.
else?
Yeah. Are all the clubs that we're playing switching to birth year or school year?
The league is, yes. All the leagues that we are in have made that decision. US soccer, honestly, Andrea, they had to make that decision. It was a bad decision that they made in the first place. They should never have done it. The good thing is they haven't let it drag on. I think it's been maybe 4.5 years since they did it. They've realised it's the wrong thing. And the only league that doesn't need to change back is the one that based around international football. It's the only one. Because everyone else, it's not relevant to anyone else. So unless your kid's playing on the national team, there is no league that needs to be playing on the January 1st birthday in this country or in any other country. Like Europe, England, it's all done on school year. The only time that you get to play it in your birth year is for the national team. And the recruitment is so intense on that. They know who those players are. It's 17, maybe 21 people out of however many thousands of kids play soccer. Does that even impact? So it was a silly move in the first place. And the fact they've moved it back, I think, is a great thing. And the fact that every league, I think Dan can tell me, I think every league has adopted it, shows that it was unanimous. So, yes, every other team, every other club will be going through the same process. And as Miranda said, after year one, it won't even matter. Like, we're only 4 years into it and no one even knows it was a bad move. So it will, after May, once we get into June, you'll never reference it again. And I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever have that change done again.
So will then the scheduling be the same as well as this year for the games purposes?
Yeah. And I think for school years, it makes it easier. We've got no trap play. We'll have no trap players next year. right? You'll have no trap players because it'll all be based on your grade. If you're not in that grade to go into the school, you'll be playing soccer. So the fact they had to introduce a separate group of kids to known as trap players, we'll never have trap players again. But here's what I'll say to all of you on the call. There's always going to be kids that are good enough to play up an age group, right? And there's always going to be kids that need that extra year to play their own age group to get on. Development doesn't go in a straight line. And if for 1 year you're playing up, take it, but don't think you're going to play up for the rest of your career. It all levels out. You know, you've been through it with Colin. You know, once they get to 16, Miranda's gone for it now. All the kids, they all level out at about 16, 17, boys and girls. Mm-hmm. Once they get to that age group, it levels out. So if you can get 1 more year playing based on this change at your age group, take it. Be the big fish, get noticed, let everyone know who you are. I'm the best kid at this club in this age group, and everyone knows who I am. And within our club, I think kids that are high achievers, you know, is what the term I'll use, always get a chance to play up anyway. Maybe it's a tournament, maybe it's the odd league game, whatever. But we'll always try and push those kids up. But don't think just because you got pushed up once that you'll remain there for the rest of your career. It doesn't always happen. Vic, you all know Vic. Vic's son Marcus. Marcus wasn't the best 13-year-old. He wasn't the best 15-year-old. He wasn't the best 17-year-old. But when he became 21, he played regularly in the first team. That was what it was. He never played up in his life until he went and played in the first team. So that's how it works.
For DPL and MLS Next, is the Florida event still going to be in January for next year as well?
I believe so. That's a Dan question.
Find out in the summer.
Okay.
But just to confirm what Derek said. So all of the leagues that we are involved in, that's MLS Next, Academy Division, Girls DPL, USYS Premier, and SCYSA, inclusive of CPL, are all transitioning to the August 1 start date. The only league that we even see that isn't, and we're not directly involved in it, is the MLS Next homegrown division. So that's where the pro academies play. That's the only one.
And that's where they'll pick international footballers. Any kid not playing in one of those academies will find it very, very hard to play on the international stage. Most of the kids should come from there. They're almost full-time players. So that makes logical sense. That's why they've done it. And if we get to that point or we end up having a child go to that level, we'll be happy to pass them on. It means we're doing a good job.
Any more?
So then, Dan, are we going to be referring to them as U18, U17?
Yeah.
Well, that involves all the math skills.
Yeah,
I had that question too, but I didn't want to be the dumb one that asked it. So I'm glad that we were on the same wavelength.
It's
9th
something
grade,
that
10th grade.
Yeah, it's something that I've been mulling in my head. I think I threw out the idea that we could, in theory, call each team by their graduation year.
No.
But I can't quite imagine the U8s playing as the 2037 Navy North or whatever. So it will probably just go back to the old school. You'll be U8, then you'll be U9, then you'll be U10, which does make a little bit more, administratively, it's a bit more of a pain in the butt, but ultimately, it's the easiest way to do it. So you know what you are. U8, U9, U10 is 7v7. U11, U12 is 9v9. U13, U14 is year-round 11v11, and U15 through U18 is half-year 11v11.
And I will say again, it'll only be this year will it'll even be confusing. After this year, just like, again, the other change is only like 4 years old and no one even remembers it. So the fact that after 1 year, no one will bat an eyelid. It's just this transition period. And the fact that they did it so long ago, I mean, again, Andrea, you've gone through it twice as a parent. You know, it's never been done anywhere in the world, but you've gone through twice for your age group with your kids. So.
When we announce coaches, is that going to be before or after tryouts?
Always before.
When will when will the parents of said, what's the timeline that the directors would be talking to those parents whose kids are on that bubble?
Yeah,
Week before, 2 weeks before, what's the plan?
we'll do it through the spring season for those that are currently in the club. And then for those that, I mean, obviously those that attend tryouts, I think, we'll reach out to them. As I said, I think with the older kids, maybe we just hold a meeting at the club that they come to, and we'll try and do it. Well, it'll be before tryouts. But what I'm saying is every single kid individually will be different. And let me just give you one last example. Let's say player A has been playing on the top team but can play down, and then the team above him, all of them come down, and he can't get in that team, then he's going to stay in his own age group anyway. So again, the tryout situation is always a random one, so you never know what's going to come in. And you all know, we've lived here long enough, some people chase a dream, some people, lucky enough at CSC, our retention rate is really high. We don't have loads and loads of kids mass exiting out, but some clubs do. I mean, I've known like a local club took 13 new players. I don't think we're that club. So, but no, I think through the spring season, we'll identify who they are and we'll have that conversation. That's basically to answer your question. Maybe we'll do a Zoom for all those parents, but individually, it will, hopefully they watch this video, they hear what we say, and then I would say to Dan that they can reach out to us as well. If there's people that have got genuine concerns, come to us as soon as possible if your kid's in that age band. So, for example, Angela Rhodes, I'll speak to her after this call and talk about her two individuals if she wants.
Any more?
Are we looking at first 3 weeks of May as well, starting May 4th?
Couldn't possibly comment.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll announce our tryouts in a couple of weeks.
You'll find out March 1st, like you do every year. But yeah, so we are, of course, with tryouts guided by the state association. So there are mandated dates for our state association where tryouts can and can't take place. So we align generally with that. And that's available on their website, but it's late April, early May, same time frame, trying to avoid high school playoffs and failing because high school keep moving it further and further back. They'll be doing high school playoffs in July soon, I'm sure of it.
And then obviously the World Cup comes into effect this year as well. So you want to get everything done before the World Cup starts.
Any more? Alrighty.